I'm Louis Cherry. I am an architect in Raleigh, North Carolina. Been here since 1980 when I came here to go to graduate school at NC State. I am originally from North Carolina, a very small town called Grifton, which is about an hour from the coast. My dad was a building contractor. He actually went to the College of Design right after World War II, took architecture classes and became a builder and a developer. So I grew up around blueprints and construction and planning, and worked in construction from the time I was probably 9 years old. I would work, doing pretty much everything there is to do in building. I went away to a military school to escape the small town of Grifton when I was a sophomore in high school in Virginia. And so I spent grades 10, 11, 12 there, and upon finishing that I went to Duke as a freshman studying English. And I was at Duke for 3 years when I really discovered a passion for art. And so I left Duke, went to East Carolina, and was an art major there, studying printmaking and photography. I graduated from East Carolina with the Bachelor of Fine Arts in 1977, and not really knowing what to do, I just did what I knew how to do, which was build houses. And so at the time, there was a really big interest in energy. There was an oil crisis, and all of a sudden everybody was interested in energy, and I was really interested in kind of sustainable design before it was called sustainable design, and kind of green building. And so I built passive solar homes, hired an architect, Byron Franklin, who had been in Raleigh but was in Greenville at the time, to help me plan a passive solar house. And working with Byron really lit the light bulbs for me that design is really where it's at. That's, where buildings are really shaped and formed. And so I decided to go back to school and get my Master's of Architecture at NC State, which I did that from 1980 to 1983. Since then, I've been practicing in Raleigh. I certainly consider myself a modernist and believe in the values of functionalism and basically the tradition coming from the Bauhaus of integrating the craft, technology, design into a unified kind of a theory of architecture. I also, though, very much believe in architecture as a humanist endeavor, and that buildings are for people's comfort and enjoyment. And it's important to me in my work to make buildings that people will love and love to be in, and will celebrate kind of their activities of their life and work and all the things we do in our buildings. An important aspect of architecture to me is the idea of place, and the idea that architecture roots us to a specific place and a specific time. So we are in the South, we are in the climate that we have, we are in the culture of the South, the food culture, the music culture, and I really believe that architecture can be a part of that cultural context, that climatological context, and that architecture is our opportunity to distinguish our environment according to where we are, and not be a homogeneous kind of sameness that we, I think, confront with all the franchise building and all of the kind of commoditization of buildings, like apartments. Like, so many of our buildings have no regional character. I don't really consider myself a regionalist per se, but I consider that my work grows out of my deep understanding and connection to my place and my culture. A project that is meaningful to me, and really, all my projects have a very special, important place. But as an example, the Unitarian Church in Raleigh was a really rewarding project for me. It was a challenging site on a busy high thoroughfare coming into the city. It sort of sunk into a hole, existing building, and our job was to kind of build a new sanctuary on top of this pretty terrible building on Wade Avenue. The Unitarian faith is very inclusive, so it's really a polytheistic approach to religion. Everyone's welcome, from every major tradition to Wiccans and agnostics, and really everyone who is looking for a spiritual community. And the challenge was, or how to create a spiritual place that isn't locked into a specific tradition, religious tradition. And it was also a large building group that was a consensus-based committee, meaning everyone had to agree. So it was particularly challenging. And as a designer, for me, it was really inspiring to have to come up with a vision that was clear enough and strong enough and compelling enough that everyone could get excited by it. And this idea that me and my design team came up with was the notion of an uplifting curve, and the idea of being in a space that's full of light and has this gesture of space that's very pure. And once we were able to communicate that, the congregation just fell into line. Everyone was supportive, and it became a very joyous experience to create this building with this community of wonderful people who were making a place to celebrate their faith. And it was just, everything was so positive about it. And then when it was complete, just there's so much appreciation from the users that this creation has enhanced their lives. And that is, it's hard to describe how gratifying that is, to be able to do, to be part of making something that really enhances people's life experience. So architecture, and being an architect, is full of challenges. It's a messy business. Building, design, budgets, clients changing their minds, the economy's up, the economy's down. It's really full of kind of highs and lows. For me, the building of my own house proved to be a very unexpected set of challenges that really have shaped my life over the past few years. And it's a complicated story, and I won't go into the details of it, but basically building a modern house in a historic district proved to be an unexpected, controversial, nationally kind of discussed story, where a neighbor appealed our design approval, our building permit. We were stopped construction and basically stuck in the court system for 3 years, while we had to stop building for about 6 months. And finally, having had much of our budget sucked into paying attorneys and our emotional and psychological energy kind of sucked into a very sort of negative place, it did ultimately come down to an attack on architecture and an attack on modernism, and a lack of understanding of how historic communities live and grow and evolve in time. And so it really did become, at a national level, an important conversation about modern design, about historic preservation, about property rights, about people's ability to build a building with integrity, and not, because if my house had been a cookie cutter fake historical house, there would have been no controversy. And so it really put me on the line to say, this is important, design is important, architecture is important, and we won, and we love our house, which is where I'm sitting right now, and it was worth it. But that was a big battle. To talk about modernism and modern architecture is complex. Modernism can be considered a style with many subsets of, there are 20 brands of modernism. For me, modernism, modern architecture is about more of a philosophy of really, the sort of form follows function is actually a very important kind of statement. It's also, for me, it's not about a style. I don't approach architecture from a stylistic basis, but it is an attitude of how decisions are made, an attitude about expression of materials, about expression of craft, about things having a purpose, and that when it's all complete, the unity of modern architecture is that it is from a consistent, rigorous discipline of form making and decision making that follows a coherent set of ideas, and those ideas end up making an expression that is unified and holistic, but it's not applying a style. And for me personally, modernism is very much about light, space, comfort, all of the experiential qualities of being in a place. But I think it's that mindset of the discipline of the design process and the approach to kind of rigorous intellectual underpinning that really is the essence of modernism. As a student of architecture, I really believe that many kids who aspire to be an architect become enrolled in a course of study and are on that path. I think it's often too narrow a path, and architecture as a field of study requires so much dedication that often students don't get a broad liberal arts education and don't really learn the kind of life skills and academic skills of writing, communication, reading, being well read, looking at the broader culture. And we as architects have to understand how we fit into the larger culture, larger society, our place. And I really think it's important to be a humanist first and an architect second. And so I really encourage young architects to broaden their field of interest way beyond architecture and allow architecture to be part of a much bigger picture.